Prynawn da pawb. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, thank you to everyone. Diolch I bawb sydd wedi bod yn rhan o trefnu'r digwyddiadau wythnos hyn. Thank you to everybody who's been involved in setting up and organising the sessions this week. I hope you've been able to attend as many as possible because they've been really useful, really informative. For this final session, we just wanted to give you a little bit of an update on what's happening as far as we're concerned as county voluntary councils across West Wales. As some of you will know, most of you will know, hopefully, most of our work, we work very, very closely together in CAVS, CAVO and PAVS, and most of our work is based around 4 pillars of activity. Good governance being one of them, which reflects the work that's been done this week. Funding, volunteering, and engagement and influence. And that's the element that I wanted to focus on this afternoon and kick us off. I think it's probably fair to say over the last couple of years, particularly as county voluntary councils, we have been involved in a great many partnerships. It feels like a number of increasing partnerships and partnership work, both locally and regionally and nationally, representing or doing our best to represent the voice of the third sector and volunteers in West Wales. And some of that is probably as a direct result of the work that we've done as a sector around COVID and other challenges over the last couple of years as well. We are part of the Davidpowers. Always confuses me that we call the Davidpowers Local Resilience Forum, which is Mid and West Wales local. But we've been involved in their COVID recovery work directly, and that's been really, really useful and valuable to work with partners to look at the local recovery. And more recently, there have been a few sessions to consider the Ukrainian response and anything that we need to be doing better together across Mid and West Wales to support refugees. That work is ongoing. And we are soon to re-establish the Humanitarian Assistance and Community Resilience Group for the Davidpowers Local Resilience Forum. And a few third sector groups are directly involved in that. And we will be helping, as county voluntary councils, to shape the agenda and the work programme of that group moving forward. So you might hear a little more from us about that. Economic regeneration is I think, an emerging opportunity and an emerging area for us to be involved with directly as a third sector and as county voluntary councils on your behalf. We have both the Swansea City region and the growing Mid Wales region on our patch that cover our patch in West Wales. And that is certainly an agenda that we're keeping an eye on at the moment. And Sue will say a little more about that later. But a great deal of our time and effort is still focused on health and social care, iechyd a gofal cymdeithasol, and we are heavily involved again in a number of local strategic partnerships and a very active partner on the regional partnership board, which looks at the transformation and the delivery of health and social care services in West Wales. And some of you may be familiar with the Transformation Fund. Some of you may be familiar with the Integrated Care Fund, which have now been pulled together into one single fund of Welsh Government investment to support the redesign and the transformation of health and social care in West Wales, and is now called the Regional integrated fund. So you will hear us talk a great deal about RIF moving forward. Now, work is underway to review significant amount of funding for West Wales to look at health and social care in its wider sense. Over the course of 5 years. So the business plan for that is being pulled together at the moment and being refined at the moment, but that will change considerably. There will be a lot of work to be done over the next 12 months to refine that, to make sure that what we are doing is making a difference to people, to patients, to communities, carers, and that our services actually reflect the needs of people and of communities in West Wales. So that is an ever-changing, and there will be a great deal of work around that over the course of the next year. So again, we will certainly be reaching out to you over the next few months to get you involved in that. We've worked quite hard as county voluntary councils to create some space to reflect third sector work and some important work the communities and volunteers and carers are doing across the region. We are hoping that the inclusion of a regional innovation fund will get Welsh Government approval and will give us space to support and fund third sector and community activity linked to health and social care. We are hoping to be able to develop that as a co-productive pot. So we're looking at identifying the issues and the gaps, and then working with you as a sector and with communities to find solutions to some of the challenges and the problems that we're identifying. So again, watch this space. We're hoping to get the green light, fingers crossed, and there will be a lot of work, of course, that will go into that before we'll be able to give out any funding, any investment, but we'll be working very closely with all of you to deliver on that. We are looking at the governance around that around the regional partnership board moving forward to reflect the RIF funding, but also some of the core work that we do as partners in West Wales, and some other funds that come through from various sources as well to support health and social care delivery. So that's being undertaken at the moment. And at the heart of some of that, we will be building in some capacity and a great deal more focus on continuous engagement and better engagement with people and with communities and with service users. I've already mentioned co-production, and co-production of services and co-production of solutions will be even more important moving forward, will be an important element of the 5-year programme. And as well, looking at developing social value within our services, within our groups, within our organisations. And the Innovation Fund will be very, very closely linked to that work as well. So, lots changing, digon digwydd, digon a newid. So yeah, watch this space. We will keep you informed and we will keep you in touch when there is information to share. But we are very busily working in the background to make sure that there is a reflection of the work of the third sector and opportunities for the third sector to engage in all kinds of strategic partnerships and programmes across West Wales. So I would now like to hand over to Sue Leonard from PAVS, who will say a little bit more about some of those opportunities.
Okay, thanks, Hazel. And there's no doubt there's a very great deal of our time that's spent around various partnership tables, locally, regionally and nationally, not helped by the fact that at a regional level, the regional footprint is not always the same. And I'll come on to that in a minute. So my slot here, I'm going to just focus on some of the regional funding opportunities that are currently open, and just pick up on one of the points that Hazel made around the need for co-production. And so the first regional fund that I just want to mention is one that I hope that you're all aware that is the Regional Learning Disabilities Innovation Fund. Now this funding, it's a regional fund. This particular pot of money is being managed through PAVS in Pembrokeshire, but it is a regional fund and will be promoted and supported through the other two CVCs in their counties. It's reopened because we did have a successful programme of work last year, and on the back of that success, it's been reopened again, and it is funded through the regional funding pot, the ICF fund. So this Learning Disabilities Fund will provide up to 100% of revenue costs, up to a maximum of £20,000 per programme. And projects have to be completed by the 31st of March 2023. So just less than a year really to get things done. And the deadline for submission is 16th of May. So not too long, just the next couple of weeks. But it's important to have a look at the detail of this fund, because what sets this aside from other funding pots is that we work really closely with Pembrokeshire People First to support the involvement of people with learning disabilities at every single stage of the process. So some of you might be aware of the Dream Team, as they call themselves, the Dream Team. And that is a team of people with learning disabilities from across the three counties that basically have been supported to manage and run the regional partnership for people with learning disabilities. So there's the Dream Team we are there to support them, to make sure that the grant making process is to support them in the grant making process. And as a result, applications do need to be submitted in easy read, so that those people with learning disabilities they're the ones that will be making the decisions. And so we need to make sure that they receive applications in a format that will enable them to do that. So, you need to factor that in. If there's, and all applications do have to be genuinely co-produced with or submitted by people with learning disabilities. And as I say, the decisions are taken by people with learning disabilities, and they also are part of evaluating, and they're tough evaluators, actually wanting to know what's worked and how it's worked. And I think that if we look at co-production, this model of delivering funding is really a good template to follow for other funds that might come through. For carers, for example, how do we involve unpaid carers, just in the same way that we're involving people with learning disabilities to make decisions and co-produce applications. So I think this is something that Hazel mentioned, the regional innovation funds that we are hoping will come through the RIF, the Regional Integration Fund. And I think there'll be significant interest in structuring those funds along similar lines to the Learning Disabilities Programme, which has been successful and we've learned a lot from. So I think that's something to look out for as well. We want to see engagement and co-production, and we need to make sure that our grant programmes and our funding programmes reflect that. So more information is available about that on the PAVS website and through the PAVS Padlet. We'll make sure that links are sent through to you if you haven't received the information already. So another fund that's available is the Comic Relief Community Fund. And this funding is being led, this is a regional fund again, but it's being led this time by CAVS in Carmarthenshire. And I think CAVS we've just launched that now, so that's out there. And I think there's a Q&A session later on this month, on the 18th of May. I should just say that the LD fund, I think there's a Q&A session on that immediately following this. It's not on the same link, but it's happening this afternoon. And it no doubt it will be recorded and it will be made available. So the Comet Relief funding is, to say, it's regional fund. It's a small grant scheme, but for grants between £1,000 and £10,000, and to be eligible, you do need an annual income of less than £250,000 a year. The activity for this will start on 22nd of August and will run through for a year from August. So it's not in line with financial years, but you do get a full 12 months delivery, which is great. The deadline for grant applications is the 27th of June. So there is a fair amount of time to think about this one and to look at, putting in good applications across 4 areas: children, survive and thrive, gender justice, a safe place to be, and mental health matters. So those are the 4 themes. So if you're involved in any of that, then have a think about the Comet Relief work. There is a larger grants programme that's been managed nationally by WCVA, which they're calling organisational growth grants, and that's between £30,000 to £50,000 a year. But that's a national programme, so do take a look at that through WCVA. So I think those are the 2, Comet Relief and the Learning Disability Innovation Funds, are the 2 current regional grant programmes. But I just wanted to finish by highlighting the fact that you'll all be aware that we no longer receive European funds. However, the UK government is replacing the European funding with domestic funding, and that domestic funding is called the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. And the prospectus for the UK Shared Prosperity Fund has actually now been published only recently, and it's online. If you Google it, Shared Prosperity Fund, it'll take you to the online prospectus. It's quite detailed. But just to say that the way that this funding is operating, there's been an allocation of funding to each of the counties in Wales. But so each county, through its local authority, will put in place some kind of decision-making process to determine what kind of investment they'd like to make at a local level. But all of this then gets pulled up to a regional level, and the investment proposals will be submitted by the City Deal and the growth zone regions. So for us, that means the Swansea City Deal region, whatever it's called now, it's not called that anymore, is it? But it's Western Bay, maybe. But it's Pembrokeshire, Carmarthenshire, Swansea and Neath Albert. And then Ceredigion will be aligned with Powys in the Mid Wales region. So splitting our West Wales region across different footprint. So so we're that prospectus highlights 3 areas of work: communities and place, people and skills, and supporting local business. And the overall objective of the programme is to build pride in place and increase life chances. And actually, when I skim read the prospectus, I was pleasantly surprised to see that there are numerous opportunities, I believe, for the third sector, particularly in the communities and place and people and skills areas. Although there's opportunity for social enterprise, I think, in the building, the business area. So I think it's a little bit of, I can't give you too much more information at the moment, the investment proposals have to be submitted to the UK government no later than the 1st of August. So there's not, you know, that time will soon go, and because there's quite a lot of work to do locally before it goes up to the regional level. But at the moment, I certainly, from a Pembrokeshire perspective, need to do a bit more digging around to see how we're going to be doing this in each county. And I think that goes for Ceredigion and Carmarthenshire as well. In fairness, the prospectus has only just been recently published. So we will make, we'll make sure through the CDCs that we're in the loop, and then we can make sure that the sector is involved in the conversations. In terms of the levels of funding, it's a 3-year funding programme through to March 2025. And they do expect activity to be started in October later this year. So it's a 2.5-year activity for activities really. And the financial allocations at the local authority level are for the 3 years for the full programme, before you get too excited. So for Carmarthenshire, 32 million. For Pembrokeshire, it's 19 million, and for Ceredigion, 12 million. But nevertheless, that's not a bad amount of money per county to have a go at. It's mainly revenue. It's mainly revenue. There are capital funds running in alongside this, community ownership fund, which is already up and running, and the levelling up funds. So, there are some capital opportunities as well. But certainly, I think we need to make sure the sector is well represented and involved in this UK Shared Prosperity Fund. So that's something to watch. Okay, and so I've talked about the co-production, importance of that. And I'm going to hand over now to Marie, who's going to finish off by giving some examples, I think, talking about regional collaborations.
Thanks, Sue. And I'll apologise to start with if you can hear any background noise. They're actually working on my roof at the moment. I had hoped that they'd gone for their lunch by now, but unfortunately they're still here. So yes, you've already heard that we do work very closely together. If I start about telling you about Galluogi Tree, I think I'm almost positive that last year that we told you that we were going to develop a regional entity between CAVO, PAVS and CAVS. It's been a long journey, and I think we actually made the decision that we wanted to start the journey back in 2017. So we've had a number of hurdles to overcome over the years, but over the last 12 months or so, the work has developed to the point that we can now tell you that that the organisation does have a name, which is Galluogi Tree, which in English means Enable 3. We can also say that we've got a governing document. It's been a very long journey, but in another way, this is just the start of the journey. And it's, I think, the three of us are very happy that we've now got to this stage, and hopefully by the time we meet next year, if we meet next year, that we'll have much more that we'll be able to tell you about it. But it will enable us to work together regionally in a better way. At the moment, things, comic relief, for example, one of the CVCs has to take all the risk whenever we take on any regional opportunities. So hopefully there'll be lots of information during the remainder of 2022 and the beginning of 23. We hope. Moving on, another development. Acting on behalf of the West Wales Carers Development Group, PAVS have been awarded funding from Welsh Government to develop a bilingual regional carers website. And this website will support the provision and accessibility of consistent information, assistance and advice for unpaid carers in the 3 counties. The website design, branding and context, that's going to develop through co-production and engagement with unpaid carers and providers throughout the region. And there are 2 events being held, I believe, next week on the, I think I'm right in saying the 5th and the 6th of May. And Tammy who's here with us, Tammy is leading on that work as well. As well as working regionally, Hazel's already touched on the pillars that we work on as Third Sector Support Wales. So a lot of our work is based around digital platforms as well. And you may already be aware that we have Volunteering Wales, which is the volunteering platform. We've also got funding.cymru, the funding platform. We've got Info Engine, which is the Directory of Services. And we've also got the TSSW Knowledge Hub. I can't remember. I know this Knowledge Hub has developed a lot throughout COVID, and I think we did mention it last year, but I know that over the past 12 months or so, the hub has developed a lot. It is a platform that you'll need to register for. But once you've registered for that platform, you've got access to training courses, access to resources such as information sheets, which are based on all 4 of the pillars that we work to. So you'll find things ranging from health and safety information sheets through to your volunteering, governance, etc. Also on the platform, there are networking tools and some networks that you can participate in. So as well as having the networks that are based on our 4 pillars, you've also got a safeguarding network and a Welsh Language Commissioner network on there as well. Moving on, another part of the website based on learning, there are some courses there that you can undertake, and these, again, same way as the information sheets, they range across the 4 pillars, and you've got things such as financial guidance for trustees, and then at the other end of things, you've got an introduction to safeguarding in the voluntary sector. Please have a look at the platform. It's absolutely packed full of information, and so if you could register on that, it's definitely worth your while. And I think not to forget that as CVCs we also have websites as well. I know CAVO and CAVS, we've already had upgrades to our websites, and I believe that that PAVS are going through that process at the moment. And I think from a CAVS point of view, I've got to say good luck to you, because I know it took us forever and a day to get there. So yeah, please have a look at all the platforms. Again, Volunteering Wales for all your volunteering needs, Info Engine for the service directory, and the funding.cymru for your funding needs. And both funding.cymru and Volunteering Wales, they're both shortly going to be having some updating work happening to them. And I think is it back to you, Jackie?
Yes, thank you very much. Really informative, and I think there's such a lot going on. It's really important to keep checking in with Pembrokeshire, with the Padlet and with their website, which is under construction, I saw the other day, and also checking in with the website, CAVO website and CAVS website. Lots of information coming out that's really, really useful. So it's going to be a busy few months.